Well, I guess it's time to introduce myself to BookTube. Welcome to the depths. Hello, my name is Lekden, and this is apparently my BookTube channel, Reading from the Depths. I'm a Tibetan Buddhist monk, teacher, translator, and I like to read. And after having spent the last few years on the periphery of BookTube, I decided to jump in and start my own channel. So here we go. I wanted to make a video to introduce myself to all of you, introduce my channel, and I thought I'd do the BookTube newbie tag to kind of break the ice. But before we get there, I thought I'd share a little bit about myself. As I said, my name is Lekden. I am from the USA. I was born and raised in New England. I did all my undergraduate and graduate studies there as well. And then when I finished with my graduate studies, I decided to become a monk and I moved to a Tibetan Buddhist monastery in South India. And I've been living here for about 13 years. The lineage of Tibetan Buddhism that I practice has a monastic degree or title that you can earn through intense study of Buddhist philosophy, phenomenology, metaphysics, and so forth. And that takes about 25 years. So I'm about halfway done with my studies, but that is my full-time job, essentially, is studying. However, I do teach, as I said, I teach in different Buddhist centers, or Dharma centers, we call them, throughout India and the US primarily. I do translate texts. Hopefully my editor doesn't see this because I'm quite behind on a big project. But in addition to that, I read, As a full-time student, essentially, I don't have a lot of free time, but any free time I do have, I read. So let's go through these questions. Why did you start this channel? Well, to be honest, the real reason I wanted to start this channel was to have a place to leave book reviews. I read a lot of ARCs from places like NetGalley and so forth, and I leave reviews for all the books I read on Goodreads, but I thought it'd be nice to have another outlet to leave reviews, and so that's the primary reason. However, having spent so long on the outside of BookTube and seeing what an amazing community it is, I also wanted to kind of be part of that community. So I was kind of doing two birds, one stone by starting this channel. So what's unique about this channel? Well, I don't know of any other Tibetan Buddhist monks on BookTube, so that is unique. And this kind of goes with another question. It says, why do you love reading? For me, I think stories are a way we understand humanity, right? That's why we read stories, that's why we write stories. We learn something about ourselves. It doesn't matter how pulpy, how trashy, how highbrow, how literary the story is. What stories do is they reveal something, or they have the opportunity to reveal something about ourselves to ourselves. They're like a mirror in that way. When you read a story, you find out what excites you, what repulses you, what horrifies you, what entrances you, what calms you. And so every time you read, you have an opportunity to learn something new about yourself. And that's one of the reasons I really love reading, and that is the spirit that I hope to bring to this channel. Now, most of my reviews are pretty objective. Well, I guess review by definition is subjective, but I don't bring that aspect into my reviewing. However, hopefully it will come into some of the other things I do on this channel. So that's an uncommon way of engaging with reading that I hope to bring to BookTube. So what am I most excited about for this channel? Well, my goal for this channel is to be able to release 2 videos a week, and one of those videos will definitely be a review. And the second one might be a review, but it might be a tag, it might be a reading wrap-up, it might be some other reading event, it may just be rambling, whatever is on my mind at the moment, that in the literary or bookish realm. So I'm hoping with that second video every week to do more than just reviews, but to also bring more flavor and to kind of help create a community of people that are consciously consuming books and art in such a way as to make their life more meaningful. And so that's something I hope to bring to this channel and to BookTube in general. So when did you start reading is the next question. I can't remember exactly when I started reading. What I do remember is in my elementary school, the kids in kindergarten obviously weren't reading it. They're still learning to read and write. But me and one other boy every day got to go to first grade to reading time because we both knew how to read already. And I have no clue where I actually learned to read. Maybe in preschool, maybe from my mother, but I felt very special, even then in kindergarten, to be able to go read with the older kids in first grade every day. So that's my first memory of reading. So the next question is, what book or series got you into reading? And so while I remember starting reading in kindergarten, the actual first series that I have a strong memory of is the Hardy Boys series, which I started reading in second grade, I think. And I remember all of the original ones were these blue hardbacks, and then all of the contemporary ones, so after number 50 or something, were all paperback. And I read through all of those. And so I was reading those, also the Nancy Drew mysteries, whenever I ran out of Hardy Boy mysteries to read. And that was in second grade, like I said. And then by the time I got to third grade, I moved from mystery and detective novels to horror, and I started reading R.L. Stine, his Fear Street series, his other standalone series, and Christopher Pike, I think, also had some young adult horror. And R.L. Stine just started the Goosebumps, I think, in 92. And I was born in 84, so it was right about the perfect age. So after I'd already been reading R.L. Stine, I came upon the Goosebumps books. And once I found those, it was no going back. I think I read every single one. There were points where I was reading 2 or 3 of them a week. I couldn't get them fast enough. From the school library, from the city library, or whenever Scholastic came and did a book fair, I'd buy as many as I could, borrow as many from my friends. And so I just jumped headfirst into the Goosebumps when I was young. And that graduated into Stephen King. Now, I know exactly where I got my first Stephen King book. I was 10 years old, and someone gave me a copy of Misery to read. I know who it was. I'm not going to out him here, though. Misery is not really a book you should give a 10-year-old. In fact, there are probably very few Stephen King books you should give to a 10-year-old. Maybe Eyes of the Dragon, maybe a few others. Not Misery. But I was a smart kid, and I was reading, so no one really interfered with whatever I wanted to read. And I got my hands on Misery, and it blew my mind. And I just went to the library and got anything I could by Stephen King. And the next book I read was Gerald's Game, which is an even more inappropriate book for a 10-year-old to read. But, once you threw open that door, there was no closing it. And every time I went to the library, getting to go into the adult section of the library instead of the kids section was so exciting. And so I think that's where my love for reading really came from. It started with the Hardy Boys, and then it went to Goosebumps, and then went to Stephen King. The next question is, what questions would you ask a fellow booktuber? And then what challenges about BookTube do you think will be hardest to overcome? And so I don't really have any questions, I think, because I've seen so many booktubers by now that they've already answered a lot of the questions I might have. The challenges, I think, are the same ones that everyone expresses: finding time to not only record, but edit and upload videos, trying to keep to a schedule, and maybe most importantly, making sure that I'm reading for pleasure or for myself and not just to create content. So those are obviously the challenges. Here at the monastery, it can be quite busy, especially certain times of the year. It gets kind of overwhelmingly busy. And so I know I won't be able to read as much during those times, never mind produce more videos. So trying to find a balance to prepare videos ahead of time and so forth, and really make sure that I'm still reading because I love reading, not because I have any attachment to creating content or to getting feedback from my reading. So those are the challenges. Hopefully I will keep my eye on them, see how we go. Where do you read? I read anywhere. Anywhere I can find 5 minutes free, I'll read. Most of the books I read digitally on a Kobo. I used to read on my phone. I really don't like having more things than I need, and I thought my phone was working perfectly well for reading, so I'd read on my phone. And then after kind of playing with a friend's ebook reader and realizing how much more comfortable it is to read on e-ink instead of on a phone screen, so I bought a Kobo. And as you know, you can bring it anywhere with you. So most of my reading I do at my desk or in my bed. But when I teach in a city that's about 6 hours away, rather. So that's a nice long bus ride. I get some reading there, and anytime I get 5 free minutes, if it's enough time to read a page or two, I'm going to do it. So I read everywhere. What are your favorite genres? Well, I guess, as you can guess, horror, and then sci-fi and fantasy. I feel like that triumvirate is pretty common, but really I'll read anything. I don't know if there's any genre I haven't read. In general, if you put a book in front of me, I'm probably going to read it and try to find something in it that's meaningful to me or joyful to me. But if I had to choose, you're going to find me most comfortably residing in the realm of horror and sci-fi and fantasy. What does your book collection look like is the last question. And my book collection, as I said, most of it is digital. I do have quite a few physical books, but most of them are books for studying. So they're Tibetan language books that are either sacred texts or commentaries like this. I have quite a few hundred of those that I use to study for my program here at the monastery. As far as the books I read for pleasure outside of study, I do have some physical books. You can see the small bookshelf behind me that I keep here. I've also been supporting a lot of anthologies on Kickstarter, so those are all paper. So I have some, a couple dozen books that are paper, but most of them are all digital. And that's it. That's the BookTube newbie tag, those 11 questions. I hope you get to learn a little bit about me. I hope you are interested in coming back. Like I said, I'm going to have a lot of reviews, but I hope to also have other content as well. And by the time this video gets released, I'll probably record a few more and have them all released at the same time. So some of the material I'm thinking about doing is, I think, it's an interesting question about what it means to be a Buddhist monk on BookTube. So I want to do a video about that. I'm very interested these days in reading short stories. So I want to talk about short stories and different short form versus long form literature. I have a lot of ideas, and we'll see what I have time to do. Part of the reason I engage in pop culture and I engage in literature is because it gives me a chance to slow down, and it gives me a chance to have a mirror looking at my own mind and learn something new about myself. And traditionally, when you're visiting someone in Tibetan culture, if you were to leave when it's time to go, instead of saying goodbye, the way they say goodbye is kalepe. And kalepe means go slowly. And you respond kaleshut. And kaleshut means remain slowly. And I think that's a sentiment that I just wanted to share with all of you. And so with that, I will say thank you very much again for joining me today. I appreciate you. Be kind to yourself, take care of each other, and go slowly.